MicroEtudes, page 2, number 4. Do, 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 re, do, ti, 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 do, 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 re, do, ti, 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 do, 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 do. Okay. I have to admit that one took me a couple of tries to get through, and I had to practice this one for a few minutes. So don't get discouraged. If you need to play it slower, you should probably start out playing it slower. You need to get comfortable with the 16th note right hand part, which is just a matter of practicing going down and up and brushing lightly across the strings in order to get that sound. Just practice that on its own. You could maybe do 4 counts of 16th notes on the C chord and then 4 counts on the G chord. That'll practice going back and forth between the C and the G. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if we can go faster. You can see I'm not a great ukulele player either. The goal here is to get comfortable with playing rhythms and singing melodies and connecting the harmony to the melody. That's our entire goal here. So if you don't have a pretty voice to sing with, like I don't, sing anyway. It's a matter of expressing the notes that are inside your head. It's not a matter of being on stage and singing beautifully. That's not our goal here, and that's not a goal that I'm likely ever to achieve myself. So let's do the rhythm on this one. Here we go. 1 E and 2 E and a 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is really tricky to remember because now we have 8th notes, I think for the first time, or at least the first time so close together. We have 8th notes and 16th notes trading places, so it's in the voice, the running, moving part is in the voice, and then it's in the ukulele, and sometimes it switches back and forth very quickly, like at the end of the first bar. Remembering and getting your brain trained for shifting the moving part back and forth between your mouth and your hands is going to be a tricky thing. It's a specific skill that you have to develop. The trick to developing this kind of a skill is concentrating on going slow, making yourself go slow, and making yourself do it correctly, no matter how slow you have to go. And you can practice this ridiculously slow. It's probably a good idea. Let me show you what I mean. This is me playing this one ridiculously slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do, 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 re, do, ti, 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 do, 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 do. So it's, for some reason, a lot of people have a lot of trouble practicing slow like this. And I will sometimes go even slower than that. I wouldn't call that ridiculously slow. I would call it very slow. Sometimes you need to go ridiculously slow in order to get all the connections to happen properly. So an important thing to think about is why we practice slow. If you can get that locked in your brain, that there's a reason, a concrete, practical reason for practicing slow. It's not this magical thing you have to do that will make you better. There's a concrete reason, and that is when you slow down, you're increasing the amount of space between each event that you have to perform. So your hands have to perform a certain number of events, your mouth has to speak clearly and say the different syllables, has to change pitches at the right time, has to change rhythms. This is a very complex thing that we are asking your brain to do. But when you slow it down, you're expanding the amount of space between each event, each thing you have to do, or each combination of things that you have to do. And that space allows your brain time to process. By going slower, the slower you go, the more brain processing time that you have. And the more brain processing time allows you to make changes or to move, think ahead. You can think ahead and not be surprised by things that are happening down the road. Or you can remember, that's something that you have to remember. For instance, if I'm changing from an F chord to a G chord, I have to remember that this index finger, I have to move a little bit early. It takes me a little more time to move from the F chord to the G chord than it does from the C chord to the G chord. So that's one specific thing. If I'm on an F chord and my next chord is a G chord, I've got to remember, you may have noticed I move my hands a little before count one. I have to take a little bit of time to get over to that G chord. That means I have to shorten the last F chord. 1, 2, 3. If you listen really closely, that last chord, that last F chord, doesn't sound like the other ones. It gets chopped off in the middle because my fingers are moving. And that's something I have to remember to do. If I don't think ahead, and when I'm going fast, I don't have time to think ahead unless I'm really comfortable with what I'm playing. That motion is something I have to program into my sequences. Once it gets automated where I'm not having to think about it consciously, my subconscious can take over that movement from the F to the G, then that's one thing I don't need time to plan for. I don't need the mental processing time, and I can speed back up. But it takes time to develop all those connections, especially this is getting to be pretty complicated in the sense that you have to remember what your mouth and your hands are doing and coordinate the two. But it's not anything you can't do. It's just going to take more practice time if you haven't done this type of thing before. And if you haven't done it before, or if this is a difficult skill for you, then you need to invest the time right now to be able to do it. And it'll pay off by the end of this year. When you have done 1,000 of these exercises, you're going to be a really strong self-accompanier. How do you say that? But you're going to be able to accompany yourself and do some really cool things between the rhythm that you're playing here and the melodies that you can sing. Okay, thank you. I'll see you in the next video.